Hey everybody, welcome back to the Dungeon Dive and welcome back to Solo RPG Friday. This is the first episode where I'm going to be joined by a guest, and I am joined today by Alan from Perplexing Ruins.
Good morning.
Good morning, Alan. How are you?
Awesome. Really good. Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
Sitting through my first big snowfall in the
Oh,
Midwest.
is it
All day yesterday.
all day? Nice.
Mhm.
Yeah. It's
Yeah.
cold. It's cold here. My house is so cold and drafty. So once winter hits, I'm like always bundled up in a blanket indoors.
But it's so nice. It's
Hmm.
my favorite season.
Me too. Love it. Lots of
Yeah,
good indoors time.
totally. Yeah.
So the purpose of these conversations between Alan and I, we're going to kind of be helping, and Alan's going to be helping me, and hopefully we will be helping other people just kind of navigate the world of indie tabletop RPGs. A lot of them being made for solo play or easily adaptable to solo play. That's what I think a lot of people are going to find as they start diving into these kinds of games. It's just how easily a lot of games that aren't solo can be played solo.
Virtually any.
Yeah, right. I mean, maybe, I was thinking I'm kind of working on a what is an RPG video because
Hmm.
that term is so nebulous these days,
Yeah.
you know?
So much crossover too.
Yeah. And I was thinking like really the only kind of RPG that can't be played solo would be something like Vampire the Masquerade, which is a full social game, or like Fiasco would be pretty boring, would be pretty boring solo.
Yeah, like hidden information deduction.
Yeah.
I feel like people really are hankering for solo, like Call of Cthulhu stuff.
Yes, mystery.
And you did a series recently, I know.
Yeah.
And it's a struggle because of like the deduction.
Yep.
And in board games, you flip a bunch of cards that tell you exactly what happened. But in RPGs, the referee's got to kind of mitigate that or present it in a way. But if you're solo,
Yeah.
you know,
Solving a
and
mystery solo is really hard.
it can be really hard. And I picked up the Solar Investigator's Handbook, and I haven't really dove in yet, but I like the game Liminal Horror a lot.
Liminal Horror.
Yeah, so I guess that'll be my first shout out, if you will, by a guy named Goblin Archives. And it is a Cairn hack
Okay.
of
Yeah.
Call of Cthulhu. So 3 stats, super streamlined, but he built tools in there for this thing you and I are talking about. And I think it will be the best way to do that kind of game solo with that.
Oh, nice. Okay. Okay. So yeah. So you could adapt the horror or the mystery mechanisms from Liminal Horror. You think you could probably adapt those to Call of Cthulhu?
Or just play your own. It's
Just play
not
your own,
set in the
okay.
20s, and I love that too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. The
we get
20s.
so locked into Lovecraft 20s, the awful baggage,
Yeah.
and this
Yeah.
guy just went totally modern. Now,
Okay.
granted, you could play it how you want it, like run it with modules, I think, but I just think he's like, we need a fresh breath of air in this genre.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so he created a cool streamlined set. He got some great artists, one of my favorite artists, to do the cover for the book. He's got a team building. He's doing a game jam right now. It is blowing up. And I do think it will be the best way to do solo Cthulhu type
Awesome.
stuff. So
Well, I'll make sure to put links to various websites and stuff
yeah.
in the comments on here. So, why don't you tell people a little bit about yourself and your background? So, for those of you, Alan is the creator of Fallen RPG, which is a kind of out of the box, out of the book, soloable, very soloable because of the way the skill system works. It has kind of a narrative outcome on skills, which I really enjoy. But you've
Thank
done
you.
Fallen. I will be featuring your Oracle card, which bad lighting, but I will be featuring your Oracle card on a video soon where I'm going to be covering advanced. I'm putting together like a very simple little game where I'm using advanced dungeon goons as the rules system. I'm using the Fantasy Trip outdoor encounter cards as the overland.
Yeah.
And the labyrinth encounter cards as the dungeon, and then your oracle as the oracle. So I'm kind of trying to put together the most simple little system that will give you a lot of game because I know people are interested in that. But so you've
So
done Fallen and Perplexing Ruins. So tell us a little bit about your background and in gaming and the kind of
yeah,
things that you like to create.
yeah. So I'm relatively new to gaming. I have to admit, it happened much with the pandemic.
Mhm.
Like many people, I'm now learning, or many
Yep.
people rediscovered their love of gaming.
Yeah.
Um, I come from a pretty different kind of background from gaming. You know, I was a bookseller for 10 years, and did that kind of thing. And I have an arts background, so I've worked at art museums and ran a gallery for a little while. Um, and then just before the pandemic, I was floundering with things, and I finally got back into painting. And I started finally doing more fantasy stuff. Basically, I came out of my fantasy nerd closet, basically, and and then the pandemic hit like right then, and so I was like, screw it, I'm jumping in, I'm looking, and of course I looked at D&D, and I was like, no, man, this is. I had never role played before, and I was like, this is way too much.
Way
And then
too
I
much.
discovered D. Huh?
It was too much.
Too much, man. I hated the aesthetic of the book and the whole system,
Hmm.
and I'm very visual, and that struggle. And then I was just bored with it. It seemed inaccessible. And then I discovered D100 Dungeon,
Yeah.
print and play, and I was like, "Oh, this is sweet. This is like playing Nintendo Final Fantasy by yourself, basically." And that was it. I got
Yeah.
into it,
Yeah.
and then I started posting art on Reddit and made some friends and was invited to do a project and then another project and then another. And I just started illustrating for people. And that was really cool to see my first project go to Kickstarter, do
What was that?
well. It was a Tales of the Glass Gnome.
I
It
haven't
was
heard of
a
that.
it was a weird little zine about glass-based gnomes underground. And this guy gave me free reign, and I did like 15 illustrations in gouache for it, and people really liked them.
Nice.
And
That's always good.
yeah, and I had never really painted like that before. You know, I'd been really into like contemporary European painting, conceptual painting, and I just let my nerd go. And then I got asked by another person to do another piece, and it kind of went from there. All the while, I'm like discovering what we call the OSR,
Yeah.
which has its baggage and not, whatever. I don't care. Small indie games that
It
aren't
is a
D&D.
term. OSR is a term that like I've kind of made a conscious effort that I don't think I'm going to use that term on the Dungeon Dive anymore. One, because I feel like a fraud using it because I don't really know what it means anymore. But then the more I look into it, nobody really knows what it means anymore.
It's old school Renaissance, but I wasn't old school. I had no idea what old school
Yeah,
was.
well, like Morkborg is not OSR, but people call it OSR. That's a totally modern, stripped down system. You know,
It's it's taken the meaning of like artistic,
yeah,
weird,
yeah,
creative, small.
small. Yeah, exactly. That's yeah.
And Yochai Gall, who wrote Karen, basically kind of is pushing the NSR
So what is that?
to
What is NSR?
new school revolution,
Yeah, okay.
like
Yeah, yeah,
to
yeah.
totally separate from the old attitudes
Yeah.
of that
Hmm.
old scene,
Yeah.
the kinds of people you might find,
Yeah.
but just also open it up to like it's not just dungeons, it's whatever you want, and that's got a lot of traction because a lot of new people are here and they're like, oh, this is fun. And he's got a great Discord server over there where it's just like I can't keep up. It's so much creativity and conversations, but it is thriving. And so I'm in that
Yeah.
circle, I guess. My first OSR retroclone was Basic Fantasy RPG. That was the second book I bought after D100. It is an awesome book. And for your money, that or White Box
I,
Fantastic Medieval.
I love White Box, the small white book. That book
$5.
it, $5, and it's like it has everything you need to
You don't
play
even need polyhedrals, do you? Yeah. Yes, you do.
Yeah, you do. You do. Yeah,
You do.
you just need dice. That's it. But
Yeah.
that book is incredible. It's got a great bestiary. It's got great random encounter tables. It's got overland, hex crawling, dungeon crawling. Yeah,
It's this thick.
yeah.
It's so good.
That book is amazing. It's one of
I
my
actually
favorites.
bought the omnibus recently that throws in extra classes and
Oh, I haven't
few
seen
other
that
rules.
yet. I'll have to check into that.
It's a few bucks
Yeah.
and it builds the game. It's good, man. It's the best for your money. That or basic fantasy for people who don't know. For $15, you could game for years. Done.
Yep. It's totally true. And the nice thing about White Box 2 is in all of their armor classes, they put ascending and descending. So
Brilliant.
You don't even have to think about ways. It's base 20 or 19 or whatever. You don't have to think about it. It's just there it is. Okay.
And I think there's a unified saving throw. I might be confusing games. Where you just hit one target number for your saving throw?
Yeah, I think there is. Not without different without like saving
without the 5
poison and yeah.
So good. If you're getting into games, that is you can outfit your whole table for $20 and play for years on one book. So that's my plug for that.
Oh no, that's totally true. I'm putting together one of the next videos for this solo RPG Friday series is going to be three systems that I reckon. Like people often ask, like, what's a good system that you would jump into? And I'll just give a preview here. White Box, Scarlet Heroes, and D100 Dungeon for kind of 3 different takes on it. Scarlet Heroes and White Box are pretty similar, but Scarlet Heroes has all of the rules baked in for solo, and it's made from the ground up for solo. It's made for one hero, and I love that. You don't have to think about scaling or anything.
Yep. Kevin Crawford's brilliant.
Yeah, I know. I just picked up. What did I pick up? If I can reach it, I picked up Dead Names.
Oh,
it's a supplement that he wrote for Stars Without Number. And it's a way of generating very bizarre alien species and adventure sites, and very otherworldly.
Yeah.
And so I'm thinking of using that in conjunction with some Neon Lords.
I've seen that around. I didn't pick that one up.
Yeah.
That's chunky. Wow.
It's a big book, yeah. But like half of it is art.
Oh, awesome. Awesome.
But so are you working on anything new right now that you can share?
I'm always kind of working on stuff. I do commissions and my own. So yeah. This year is devoted to creating a Fallen supplement.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
A big lore book, basically. And I'll be doing that through my Patreon until it's ready to go.
Okay.
But tons of locations, NPCs, because when I launched the original game, it was modeled a lot on Ironsworn, which, though chunky, is considered one of the #1 solo RPG games.
It's one of the ones I haven't played yet because I never bought it. But I'm waiting for the physical copy to be delivered with the sci-fi.
Oh yeah, me too. I can't wait. And I think Sean Tompkins done a brilliant job because I was new to gaming. He kind of walked me through it. He has this cool system with 2 D10s and a D6, and he made it free. The first game PDF is all free. Anyway, so Fallen, I'm building a supplement for it because the first supplement was Hillgrab, which is all city.
Yep.
And now I want to make a big, beautiful art book of the world, basically. So I've begun reaching out to artists for commissions and things like that. And I'm writing 2 adventures for other creators that I super admire. I don't know. I guess maybe they're secret still, so I'm not going to go there yet. And my game I just spent over a year illustrating is on Kickstarter this week.
Oh, what is that?
It's a Brazen Crown.
Brazen Crown.
It is a Morkborg-inspired card battling game.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
You did all the illustrations?
Like 200.
Oh my God. Seriously?
Yeah. Wow. In about a year. And I'm still tweaking some. It's on Kickstarter right now. And it's inspired all by Morkborg, and it's a card, combat an opponent, basically, using
Yeah.
all the Morkborg lingo. And he's actually trying to develop a solo mode for it as part of the Kickstarter. So that I finally just finished. And then I'm always working on stuff. I want to develop. I wrote a little minimal game called Wyrd for my patrons. And
Yep.
I'm now
I've seen
writing.
Wyrd. Yeah.
I'm writing the second edition of that now. Yeah, I'm busy, man.
That's cool.
I tread all the time because this is what I do. So
yeah, I just wrote a little RPG supplement, my first one ever for the patrons.
I downloaded it for NoteQuest.
For NoteQuest, yeah.
Yeah.
Let me know how it goes.
I haven't played. I've been so busy. I haven't played in weeks, man. But I have it up at the PDF with NoteQuest, which looks really great in its own right.
Yeah, for those of you who don't know, so NoteQuest is kind of like a 4 Against Darkness, D100, kind of a roll and write dungeon crawl. The NoteQuest expanded version takes your adventures outside of the dungeons, which is always cool, and you get to do some hex crawling. But in those kinds of games, I always just want like one extra layer of role playing, basically of checking stats and just being able to do stuff that the game's mechanisms don't allow. Don't have rules for. And so I wrote a very, very simple 1-page kind of RPG system to layer over NoteQuest. And I think I might, if like the rules end up being kind of cool, I might just kind of adapt that to my own little super simple RPG system and work on something.
It's what everyone does, right?
They
write their hack.
Yep.
And I've been watching your channel for a good while now. And one of the things I'm noticing you saying a lot is simplicity.
Yeah.
Like I'm tired of like bloat, and you bought Advanced Dungeon Goons.
Yep.
Right. And I bought that too from Jacob Fleming recently.
Yeah.
It's a
very tiny little pamphlet game. Almost looks like one of those old Christian Jack Chick tracks. I almost wish it was even that, like actually the size of a. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I don't.
Okay. So Jack Chick was this like evangelical pastor Christian guy in like the 70s and 80s, and he wrote these things called tracts, and people in youth groups would buy stacks of these and then hand them out, and it was like little comic books about how you're going to hell, basically. Like just
charming.
Yeah. But his most famous one is anti-D&D, because he was at the height of his power during the Satanic Panic. And so he had this one about how this girl was sold her soul to Satan because her character died, and she was gonna go to hell for playing. And that one track had a huge impact on the Satanic Panic of like evangelical parents being like super scared of D&D. That's what I grew up in that environment. I was not allowed to, I've talked about this before, but I was not allowed to play D&D as a kid because it was evil. I could play any other fantasy game, but for some reason, D&D had that really evil, just people were afraid of it because they were ignorant of it, But
imagination's a powerful thing, man.
It is, yep. But yeah, Advanced Dungeon Goons is super cool. Oh, by the way, I bought 2 copies, so I do have a copy to give away to the
cool.
To the patrons.
He's really great. He's written a few modules, but that book right there, which is a hack of Nate Tremay's Tunnel Goons.
Tunnel Goons, yeah.
So it's just an endless plethora, but you can go as simple as you want.
Yeah.
And as minimal as you want. And I think one thing people don't maybe understand is it's your game at your table, particularly solo. And if you don't want to get bogged down in all the checks and stuff, then just like roll 6. And if you hit a 5 or 6, you're good.
You're good.
Done.
Yeah.
Which is the Tiny D6 system by Alan Barr.
Yeah.
And then, or you can go like somebody I really like is Black Oath Entertainment, who wrote I'm Waiting on Sacrifice, his new game.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I just bought that. Yep.
He loves chunkier stuff. He always writes a bunch of skills in his thing. And
he did Disciples of Bone and Shadow?
And Shrouds and Seekers, is that what it's called?
Disciples of Bone and Shadow is at the top end of my complexity.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, it's
and I admire the hell out of that dude because he's really present in the scene. He supports a lot of people, but he loves that, especially for solo, right? So you got this whole spectrum of what you want as a solo player. You know, now Alex is always putting in cool tools in his book, like word tables, oracles,
great
skills
tables.
to like prompt. If you want to forage, you want to make stuff, like you can do whatever you want in his books. Whereas you won't get that in Dungeon Goons.
Dungeon Goons, yeah.
And I think people don't understand, like some people don't understand. Solo play is sit down and tell a story. And then it's up to you how much you want the mechanisms to prompt you.
Yeah, yeah. I lean heavier towards the mechanisms. Mainly because I'm not, even when I play traditional role-playing games with a group, I'm not into role-playing. I'm one of those players who's always looking at my character sheet. Like, I want things based on the loot I have, the stats I have, you know, the skills I have, and the mechanisms. So I tend to focus more on the dice on a table, on something to help drive my stories. Yeah.
But you come from a more board gaming background, I think. Is that fair to say?
Yeah. I think so. Yeah.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, exactly. Even when I was more into role playing, I was probably never as into it as I was into the board game side of the hobby. Yeah.
You know, that's why something like Solitary Defilement that you covered last year.
Love that. That's such a great system.
You know, they're reprinting that is a super limited,
super expensive.
Super.
I know. I told people about it on the Dungeon Dive Facebook group, and I said, look, I've confirmed that there's nothing gameplay wise, there's nothing new. So don't let FOMO drive you to this $100 purchase.
Yeah.
But it's a really nice set if you really want a good printed set.
It is. And Max Moon, the guy doing that, is super talented. He's a cool dude, cool person. That's what he does. He binds his own books into hardcovers and stuff. That's just his niche, you know, and you can support it or not. But Defilement itself gives you so many tools.
Oh, I love it.
And you don't even need to do more board with it if you don't like that dark setting. Some people don't. They don't like the black humor and cynicism. Just use that tool set.
Yeah, and that was derived from Ironsworn, right? Kind of a...
It's a mashup.
Yeah, because kind of like a heavy success, a light success, a heavy fail, and a light fail, kind of. And I like
brilliantly melded them, into this thing, and then it gave you all these cool supplements to run your own adventures, and that's one of the best products out there for solo players. I assume you and I will be talking a lot more about solo than other stuff, presumably. But
I think so. Yeah. Speaking of, you mentioned Tunnel Goons and Dungeon Goons. And I mentioned Neon Lords. There's also a Tunnel Goons of Neon Goons. So Neon Goons, they took Tunnel Goons and they made a super simplified version of Neon Lords based off of that.
I hadn't even seen that before.
So I had not until last night. So I printed this out, made a little booklet at home, and I'm thinking of running this with the solo supplement for Neon Lords. I think this will be a lot easier to play rather than the big fat chunky book.
The chunky book's good for like art.
Atmosphere and cool tables, tons of loot, and a great bestiary. Like a 40-page bestiary with really cool art and stuff. So
amazing. I missed that one. And it becomes a bit of a FOMO thing. I saw your video on Death May Die recently,
Yeah.
It sucks, man. Like, you get excited and you're like, okay, I don't know. We just talked about this a moment ago, but like, boy, where do I fund things? And then you hear 40-page bestiary, tons of loot, and you're like, oh, that's the book if you want to play Wasteland, So it's hard
at least it's in one book. Like the thing that drives me more away from board games these days is this.
The sprawl, man.
The sprawl, dude. I can't handle it anymore, man. Like, I can't. Like, I'm done. I'm almost to my breaking point with board games because they have so many boxes and so much stuff, and I'm just not sure what the heck I'm going to do with it.
So I have but you
And
know what I'm thinking, and I'm going to show my first thing if I could.
yeah, okay.
This is good.
What I've asked Alan to do is kind of when we get together, he's going to be bringing some things that we want to draw to the Dungeon Dive audience's attention, and these are
Yeah.
cool things that you can get. Most everything that we're going to always show can at least be purchased as a PDF. So
Yes.
don't feel like you need to track down the physical thing. You can make with a good home printer, you can make nice little booklets, and maybe we'll get into some of like down the line, some of the more DIY, some tips and tricks.
Yep.
But you can print out really nice versions of a lot of these. You don't need to spend money. I mean, even just I put in like my Neon Lords solo supplement. I just put it in a 3-ring binder. And
so 2 points real quick. I would love to hear about that solo supplement when you have a minute.
Yeah.
Because I'm very curious now. And I do think it's important we talk about print at home stuff. When I got into this scene, I just went to Staples with a jump drive and came home with 20 zines.
Yeah.
And I had fun folding them. I hand stitched my first Mouse Fritter book.
Oh, did you really? Yeah.
Oh man, I had them printed out on yellow paper on the cover, the interior zine. And then I bought an awl and I poked holes and I sewed it with black thread and, you know, and Isaac Williams and put out Mouse Fritter for free. You know, I've since bought the box set because I think he's really awesome, generous, and it's a good system. Well, we'll talk about that in a minute. But my first thing I wanted to show.
Yeah.
And I'm not a war gamer. I'm not a skirmish player, but it interests me a lot.
Yep.
So I bought this. Oh, you can't see it with my thing. Sorry. 5 Leagues from the Borderlands.
Oh yeah, 5 Leagues from the Borderlands. Yep.
I'm sorry, you guys.
There it is.
And this is the same guy who did 5 Parsecs from Home. And this is a book that is not overly expensive, far cheaper than these board games you and I are talking about.
Yeah.
230 pages of just endless campaign building. Now, the difference is you're not getting decks of cards you flip in minis. You supply your own minis, but it's agnostic, you know? But I was like, man, this is designed for a solo campaign, much like Rangers of Shadowdeep, but not on rails as much. It's much more generative. And I'm like, okay, this was like, I don't know the price exactly, 30 to 40 bucks maybe for a nice hardcover.
For a nice hardcover from Modiphius.
Yep, exactly. And I'm like, okay, that is going to be my winter campaign game. I'm going to sit down. Oh, there you go.
There's my, so
that's better.
That's my copy. Is I printed it out at the copy store and had it spiral bound. So yeah,
you know, spiral bound is something I'm going to start doing more of. It's the way to go.
They can lay flat.
It lays flat. Yeah. But this is one book. It takes up 3/4 inches on a shelf. It's got tables and characters and story prompts galore. I'm like, that's all you need. Get your minis and then use your terrain maybe from a few board games.
Exactly. Yep. And just 2D terrain works. You don't need 3D terrain, like
or 3D terrain. Yeah,
no, you don't need like just use your 2D battle mats that have wall. Like you don't need a big elaborate tabletop setup to play a skirmish game.
And you can use like coffee cups and paper towel rolls. It doesn't matter. It's all about spacing, and then your imagination can go where it wants. But that I'm really excited about that. Like that's gonna be my winter.
You might be thinking the same thing I am. I'm thinking with 5 Leagues. I don't know if I'm actually going to be using it as much for the game itself, but for those world building charts.
Yeah.
I think those will be a really handy tool to use in all kinds of different games, right?
Yep. So many. And this is 3rd edition. So he's been working on this for years, you know, and honing it and yeah, you know, I'm not a real chunky gamer, so I'm committed to being my first chunky.
It's pretty chunky. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'm going to take time and make tokens for my characters. I recently learned this great DIY trick of printing out 1-inch sheet of circular characters.
I
punch them out with a 1-inch circle hole punch, attach them to a wooden disc.
Yep.
And then I put a little sticker on top, and they're like these glossy, very nice tokens to move around the board. And that's going to be my figures, I think, at least for enemies. I don't know. I'm really excited about this. This is my big purchase of the year, I think. So
I think you could, if you get into 5 leagues, yeah, that one book could provide dozens of hours of entertainment. I am going to be using, when I play, I am going to be using Pathfinder pawns for all the minis. I have these. I kind of went through all of my Pathfinder pawns, and I put them in these jewelry boxes.
Yeah.
And each row is kind of a class of enemy based off of the monster charts in the book. And that's another thing the book has is so many charts of monsters.
Yeah.
And then I have,
that's an awesome, those all stand up, don't they?
Yeah. And then I have like my heroes down here, like my heroes standees that I'll be using for my different warband, basically. So I've gotten to this step of 5 leagues. I haven't actually gotten to the step where I'm learning the game yet.
Are you going to do another like Cymbeline Island campaign?
I'm not sure. I
love that series.
It was fun. I might do it. I would do something like that, but for a much simpler system. I'm very intimidated with playing something like 5 leagues on video, just because of all the mistakes, I'll make.
And all the comments you get back about them.
Yeah, I make so many. I tell people, I don't think I've ever played a single game right ever in my entire life, 100% right.
But you're having a good time, right?
I'm having a good time. Yeah.
Yeah, right on.
So what else you got? What's your next?
This is my other winter game. You know, I've been so busy. I've got one last project to wrap up, and then I decided I'm going to take a month off. And I don't want to burn out, man. I love what I do, and I'm really worried about overspending and just buy, and burning out. But I bought this, and I'm so glad I did. And that is Miru.
Miru. I can show mine.
Would you? There you go. You got it too, man. Awesome.
So thank you so much for reminding me of Miru. This was something that I meant to get a long time ago when it was on Kickstarter, and I totally forgot. And then I kept putting it off. And finally, since you said, hey, one of the things we want to talk about is Miru, and I was like, oh my God, okay, I need to buy Miru. And I was, luckily it's still available in a print version. So
you can buy a bundle.
Yes.
I think, and the creator's name is, they go by Hino Kodu.
Yes.
On social, I think. Really cool person. I mean, the cover art, you should flip the front and back, show people the front and back, since they can see it better on yours than mine. It's just striking. It feels good in hand. It looks awesome. The art's great. They're a really cool person on socials. Like, I've really come to appreciate him. But this book might be the way to go for like mini campaign. And the reason I think so,
the subtitle of this, real quick, is called An Analog Adventure Game. And so I think that gives you kind of a clue of what he was attempting to create with this. Yeah,
very much. And it's got a ton of rules that are super simple. It's almost like very modular. You know, the book itself is 30 pages. And it's cool because it takes place in like a, what would you call it, Daniel? Like a strange sci-fi world, like
it's like science fantasy kind of.
Fantasy.
Think of Gamma World or something like that. Right. I think
it's not. There are like robots, but it's not like hard sci-fi, which I'm not a big fan of myself personally. And so this hits it really good, and it's just like simple attacks, simple monsters, but then there's like this really cool stuff. Like each monster in the bestiary has a 1d6 rewards. If you beat it, roll a 1d6 and you can get that reward or whatever. You know?
Yeah, it's really cool. The bestiary is small, but it seems like it has it has some good variety to it. And I like the reward system.
And then the terrain. This book, I was flipping through this the other day, and I was like, okay, I might get rid of a lot of my other stuff and just play this. 'Cause did yours come with the cards by chance?
Yeah. So I was a little curious about these. So the physical edition comes with two little kind of cards for a little dungeon crawl with an enemy on the back, kind of like a boss enemy, and a little bit of adventure. I was a little disappointed to find that these aren't included with the PDF.
They're like one things. I think you could scan them and print them.
I'm going to scan them, exactly. Yeah, because I don't want to.
They're really nice paper too. Like they just feel good.
Yeah.
I have to. This is one of the books I'm so excited about. And there's a guy named Chocopolyps, I think. I think he's from. I don't want to speculate. I want to say like Singapore or somewhere very far away from where I live. But he streams. Yeah, he streams. Yeah, and he's been doing Miru and maybe Sacrifice.
What did he do before? No, I know. I just watched his playthrough of Miru. Yeah, he is a dungeon dive viewer.
He's great, and he's a great artist to boot. You know,
he's a really good artist. Yeah,
I'm trying to get him to make stuff for Fallen, but he got busy, and he just launched a video game.
He comes from a video game art background, video game design. Yeah.
So this is one thing I guess I'd love to take a sidestep for just a second and talk about, if I may, if that's okay.
Yeah.
The community is amazing. I mean, when I got into this scene, you know, so to speak, we'll call it a scene or whatever. And there are annoying and bad people and like everywhere, but I couldn't believe the amount of creativity and kindness and support I found when I got into this small tabletop RPG scene.
Yeah.
I'm just learning the more board game scene for this equivalent. So I don't know those people as much, but in the zines, it's amazing, man. Like the amount of people that are thoughtful, kind, politically cool. Anyway, I just wanted to say, like, if you have viewers who are normally board gamers, there's a really amazing group of creators who are churning out endless amounts of material that's so fascinating, but also supportive. We commission one another a lot. We like support each other's games a lot. I don't know. I love it. It's really great.
I like the openness. I like everybody's open to hacks.
Yep.
And I mean, you know, it's kind of weird how that stems, I think, from in that creative landscape. It stems from like H.P. Lovecraft with all of his baggage. His gift to the creative world was his just giving all of his creations away to all the other authors, and he let every other author write about Cthulhu and all of his creations, and it built up this wealth of material that has survived and gone way past his original creation because he was so liberal with his copyright and just said, hey,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, take my creations and add to it.
Yeah.
And in a very similar way, that is really what has made Morkborg flourish like crazy, is their incredibly liberal licensing, where you don't have to get permission at all. You just put that paragraph on your supplement and you can make your thing look exactly like a Morkborg supplement.
You know, the only rules really in my experience is don't steal or credit people properly.
Yeah.
And if your game alludes to really shitty attitudes and behaviors, then don't do it.
Yeah, that's another thing I like about Morkborg is they have one of those things, hey, there's enough BS in the real world. Let's avoid it in this game. So don't include any of that stuff in your Morkborg.
And that's a very black humor, cynical type game, but you don't need to treat people badly.
Right. Punch up.
There you go. Yeah, you know? Indeed. And you know, like for Fallen, I have one of those licenses on Fallen. Like basically it's like do what you want. I don't care. Just don't be a bad human or I won't support your stuff.
Yeah.
But when I put out Fallen, the guy who did Solitary Defilement created 3 digital generators based on the books. So like he created like a, again, I don't know this tech stuff well, but you go onto the browser, you hit go, and it'll populate a Fallen character and a location and a mission. And I was like, you did that? Like based on my game? I mean, I'm just
he's a really creative dude. I'm totally blanking on his name. I want to get him on for an interview. But didn't he also do like a really detailed let's play summary of Fallen?
He did a whole solo campaign, wrote it as a PDF, and published it.
Yeah, and it's like 80 pages or something, right? I mean,
it amazed me. I admit I was so flattered and blushy about that. Like,
yeah,
and he was really supportive. I think he's like a grad student too. Like he's a very busy. He's a musician, and then he wrote Basilisk. Is that what it's called?
Basilisk. Yeah.
The micro crawler.
Yeah.
So my whole point with all these things is just like, wow, the sheer creativity is astounding. And then if you're into something, whether it be cute animals, Morkborg, fantasy, science fantasy stuff, there's something for you.
There really is. So let's round out this initial conversation with, I would be really curious if you could, how would you recommend people keep up on some of this stuff? Like, what do you think the best way is for if somebody's just getting into the zine scene, the indie tabletop RPG scene? It can be really overwhelming. There's so many websites, there's so many people to follow, there's projects all the time. Like, what would you recommend to somebody just getting started into collecting these, playing these, like how to keep up?
Yeah. So that dovetails actually with Twitter, which is, so I did not do social medias ever until about 2 years ago. And it was just because I wanted to meet these people. And Instagram is where I started. And that's mostly where I learned of a lot of illustrators. And through the illustrators, I learned what projects they were drawing for. And then, and the first person I discovered was the artist for Troika, Andrew Walter.
Yep.
Brilliant. He's got to be one of the best artists working.
Yeah, his art is very unique.
Amazing. They just launched a Kickstarter for a 2nd edition. And he's illustrating the whole book, I guess. But then Twitter was it. You know, I missed the G+ days that everybody talks about. And Reddit kind of fell down into a negative space for this scene. But Twitter became like this open hall of communication. Hey, this is what I'm doing last night or whatever. And that's where I learned everything. And then from there, it became like private Discord conversations. There's a huge Discord scene. It's too much for me. I really struggle to keep up with the 52 conversations.
Yeah.
But if you need help or you want to know something and you can lock into like the NSR Discord by Yochai Gal, or something like that, those people are so friendly and helpful, and they'll be like, go this way, go that way. Just ask a question, they'll answer it for you. But Twitter's imploding, and it's interesting because all week there's been a mass exodus from these people to Mastodon, Tumblr, co-host, and now I'm freaking out personally because I'm losing my scene. And I'm not good at this stuff. Like, it took me over a decade to make an account on anything. And now I'm like, people are going everywhere again. And a lot of people are saying it's like the G+ days. So what you would want to do is get on Twitter and find a maker, like this guy who makes Miru, or if you like Mouse Ritter, you know, or whatever game you like, and then just follow them. And you'll see their tweets of other people. And I start locking on to who I appreciate. And it grows from there, you know, and then you get commissioned. I got commissioned and asked to work on stuff, and it kind of grows. Diogo Nogueira
Yeah, Ronan and yeah, right.
Not Ronan, actually. Oh,
Oh
he's
no,
written
yep,
many games. Screams Against the Scars.
that's right. Yep.
Um, he has a bunch of posts out and even wrote a blog about getting into game design, and he's super helpful and generous and supports a lot of people. He actually collects, so he always posts Instagram posts of all his books. That's how I learned about a lot of different books that were out there. I don't know what to say, man. It's weird. Yeah, I start glomming onto people, and then I start getting followers, and it spirals a little bit.
Snowballs.
A little bit.
Now, does
Then sorry, go ahead.
does itch.io have any kind of so I know I follow people on itch.io and my feed is constantly expanding, but they don't but they don't really have they don't have a community aspect, do they?
So for those who don't know, itch.io is brilliant. It was originally a video game platform for indie designers. So if you're into small video games, it's perfect. But the RPG scene glommed onto it. And a lot of people publish their books there. And you can download them. And you take a $20 bill and you can have a game shelf for a year.
Yeah.
It's brilliant. itch.io just announced that they're creating a blog platform on there. So
that would be cool.
Yeah, and they just announced this yesterday. So I'm really close friends with a guy named Eco, who's pretty big in networking in RC. He published Broken Luck Zine and Skyrealm Zine, and he sent a petition with 400 signatures to Itch to make it more viable for small creators.
Mm-hmm.
And they seem to have responded. In light of Twitter failing right now, we've opened a blog platform. So now they've invited us all to like blog on our respective pages on our itch accounts.
Oh, that's great. Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Super cool.
So that is the best. Pick a bunch of followers. Yep. You'll see their posts. I get 75 notifications a day.
I know. Like, oh my God, I'm running out of paper.
Drive through RPG is pretty darn good.
Yeah. I wish they had better curation.
And interfacing?
Yes.
It's so annoying.
I know. Yeah, I wish they had curators so you could follow. I don't think they do. If they do, I haven't found it yet. But I know because like Steam has great curation. You can follow a curator, and so you can find your niche and find your games. And I think Drive Through RPG really needs something like that.
One of the last things I'll mention, I guess, is there's this guy named goes under Wyrd Science.
Wyrd Science.
Man, I'm sorry. Next
That's
time
all right. Nope.
Have this
that's all right.
Filter.
Those things are weird. They're hard to see. Wyrd Science. I'll make sure to post what's
he's from Netherlands, I think.
Mm-hmm.
And he put out a magazine, Session Zero, a couple years ago.
There you go.
And it's a beautifully produced board gaming journal. And it covers RPGs, small games, weird publishers, interviews with some of the bests like Johan. And I just got my third volume in from his recent Kickstarter. And he actually said there's a huge Morkborg spread in volume 1 where he talks all about when it first came out. You know, this is a year or two ago now. And he actually just announced a subscription tier that he's trying to turn it into a viable product. And this is like, go do this, you know, like blogs are great, but they're disparate and hard to follow for me. I love print matter. And this is like nice paper. There are 3 journals out and it is so good.
Can you buy those still or can you buy PDFs?
Both, I'm pretty sure.
Okay.
But like if you went on to Twitter and looked up Wyrd with a W-Y, Science, follow that guy. He's got his thumb on a lot of stuff, and he put it into a beautifully produced journal. He commissioned a lino cut artist for the cover. Some great money spent, I think.
Very cool. Yeah, I like that. Like a trade, I mean, you know, back in the day, trade magazines were very popular. If you were into like, you know, making movies, you had your trades and all the different, you know, and that kind of maybe with everybody kind of spreading out now, that kind of concentrated effort on taking a look at the industry you are in maybe has kind of gone by the wayside.
It might have. And what I love about his books is he actually loves board games and Warhammer and stuff too. So it's not just RPG zines. Like here's an article on Root, the board
Yep.
game, Haunted West, Morkborg, interviews with publishers. It's the real deal. That's
so cool. Good. That sounds awesome.
And he's got 3 out. So your crowd, I think, would love it because it's a nice journal it's a journal.
It's a journal.
Like a pamphlet,
Yeah.
So that's all I've got.
Cool. I just got I got 3 new things yesterday. I went kind of on a spending spree at Exalted Funeral, as we all do.
Yeah.
I got 1 zine from the last zine craze on Kickstarter, and that is Downtime in Zyan.
So good.
So I just talked about how to treat downtime in a solo RPG, and this could have some interesting elements to use your downtime wisely and productively.
Have you seen his other books?
I have not. This is the first one I've seen of his. So.
He has got a whole series in that world.
Yeah, they're like hairless mole rats.
Yeah.
I got the pant version, so you can get the drawings without pants, which has male and female genitalia on these hairless mole rat things. I figure I'm probably going to be showing this on the Dungeon Dive, so
the artist, Daniel, is Evelyn Monroe.
Evelyn Monroe, correct.
And they're brilliant and one of the favorite artists of this community.
She's kind of like a local celebrity.
I think so.
Yeah,
I mean, super talented, though, totally warranted. And a lot of people use her illustrations in their books. And Ben Lawrence's whole series from that
world.
There's 4 books before that.
Okay.
And they're beautifully made. The covers pop off and there are maps inside. And,
it looks pretty cool. So I'll have to look into that. And then I picked up Regicide, which is the a newer campaign for Forbidden Psalm, the Morkborg miniatures game. So I've been picking up the Forbidden Psalm stuff because you can incorporate it in your games of Morkborg. So it kind of turns the combat more into tactical combat. But what's really interesting is that all of the Forbidden Psalm supplements have really good bestiaries. And that's one thing that I think Morkborg is missing, is just there are no official charts of monsters to roll on by level or random encounter charts for monsters. And all of the Forbidden Psalms books have charts for random monster encounters. And so that is something that I will most likely be using more in my games of Morkborg, is these charts of monsters there.
Yeah.
But, pretty nice books. And then I picked up, finally, I've been meaning to pick this up for a long time, but that is Mystic Punks.
Oh, I missed that one. Yeah.
It's kind of students have gone missing at Star Valley High School and no one seems to care. You determine that their disappearances are the result of otherworldly invasion. As teenage misfits, you only ever used your mystic powers to perform dark rituals, but now those powers are the only thing that you can use to save your classmates and stop a supernatural legion from consuming you and your school. So you're kind of like these satanic punks who have to fight this invasion of their high school. And this
sounds awesome.
An omnibus version, so it has the core rules, and then it has all 4 of the adventure supplements, and it's made for solo. So
made for solo, awesome.
Yeah. So I've been wanting to pick that up for a long time. Deborah on Geek Gamers, she covered it quite a while ago, and she's awesome. So
is she not one of the best channels out there?
Oh yeah, she's amazing. Yeah, I love her. We chatted a couple times during the pandemic because we were both just kind of going crazy, and so it was nice to finally see her. I've one of the few who have seen her face. Maybe that's my claim to fame. I think when I'm going to be interviewing her soon.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we're both going to have our cameras just pointed at our hands. for
The
the
game-
interview.
Is she gonna have her knitting needle?
Yeah, I'll make
Yeah.
sure she has her knitting needle out. So
Her book just came out. That
yeah,
looks pretty cool. I haven't picked it up yet, but I mean, it consolidates like 4 years of her gaming advice, right? And that's
Yeah.
really cool.
yeah. So all right, Alan. Well, hey, thanks for your time on this episode
was
of
great.
Solo RPG Friday. We'll get together again. I
Yeah,
think
thank
viewers
you.
will really appreciate the kind of like the inside look at all of this stuff, and just keep us pointed in good directions.
Yeah. Take care, everyone.
All right, talk to you later. Bye bye.